Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It, and nothing like a little controversy to get me to review a new film. So I had no desire to actually watch the film we want to discuss today. It wasn't on my radar. It was not something that I had an interest in seeing. But the world has made it so that Cuties, new film on Netflix, new French film on Netflix, causing up a lot of issues, causing a lot of stir. So I wanted to see what all the hubbub was about. So I'll give you my thoughts on the film Cuties right after the jump. Real quick, if you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you will be among the first to know. So, like I said at the top, this wasn't a film that was on my radar. But whenever a mob gets behind a film or gets behind anything, I need to actually taste, touch, practice, or see what it is that is causing people to be so adverse to it and see if that they have any ground to stand on. And I can safely say that after watching this film, a lot of the vitriol that is going for Cuties is severely unjustified and is clearly being done by a mob of people who took what they wanted to take from something without actually seeing the film, took something they did from the marketing and the media and ran with that and got behind that and galvanized that. It's the same thing I have with the issue with people who take headlines and say this person said this without taking the context or whatever the actual article was about. So Cuties is a coming of age comedy drama about a young lady named Ami who lives in a culture in a world where sexuality is repressed. Lives in a world where her mother's rights to do mostly anything or basically anything is repressed. Her rights and sexuality and choice is all repressed, and so we get this girl who, as she's coming of age, 11-year-old coming of age, starting to learn more about her, who she is. She sees girls her age who are a lot more uh, grown, or a lot more knowledgeable of the world, a lot more accustomed to their sexuality, and has seen the way that sexuality is shown through media and all this stuff, and uses that to make a rush decision or make a rushed world to get to point A of that spectrum of being from super repressed to overly and extremely sexual without any of the learning curve or any of the learning process or the nuances that happen within that. Um, and it's a pretty solid film. Like, it's a really good film about the pitfalls and learnings of what a young woman has to go through, and knock off and filter through and see through what makes them what they want to be when they are entering womanhood. And at the end of it, you get a girl who has gone from one side of the spectrum and to the other side of the spectrum and lands in a middle spot, whereas we want everyone to kind of get to on their own, where she gets to traverse that world of gaining the knowledge of sexuality without being rushed to do it as an 11-year-old girl trying to be something she's not. It's a really well done film. I will say this. I think Netflix America, I don't know who was in charge of the marketing for Netflix America or Netflix US, they did a very piss poor job of marketing. They put this image out as the image to represent what this would be on Netflix and the Netflix queue and all of that good stuff. And if I'm basing my image off of that, then yeah, I'd probably be a little bit outraged too. Um, Luckily, if you have the context of the film, you'll see that that shot is about a 3 minute, 4 minute sequence in the movie, and it's not at all what the overall theme or story of the film is. And it's also has to take place, or is a part of taking place, to kind of get to uh, where this young lady ends up when the film is over with. I think also it is important to note that there is a distinct difference in the way that actually any country outside of the U.S. reacts, responds, and shows and displays sexuality and the comfortability with sexuality and the ability to discuss and talk about sexuality. They're all a lot better at it than the U.S. Anytime the U.S. gets fronted with that, they're like, no, no, because we are a very repressed society. It's funny that people are all outraged about this film, and it's making fun of and toying with the repression of sexuality in girls, and this country does that in mass, and is sort of doing that again here by trying to repress and restrict this film when it has nothing to do with child pornography whatsoever. Um, but it's showing the pitfalls of what happens in or can happen in a young girl's life in and out of the U.S. I also think that the media, unfortunately, this movie does a good job of having the media show what is showcased to what young girls as to what is womanhood and what is womanly and what is considered to be sexy or pretty or gorgeous. And while they're still kids, because these girls still do kid-like things. They break into a laser tag thing and they have fun just playing around with laser tag. But in that very same moment, very same sequence, they later think that the way to get out of something or the way to improve is to turn on your sexuality because they don't know how to use it. They don't know what it is. They don't know what the purpose of it is. And I think that's what this film does as a whole to try to put out there and represent and showcase. I think a lot of people are having an issue that these girls, these actresses, are of the age of that the characters are supposed to be in the movie. Very rarely do you have people who are playing the age that these girls are 11, 12, 13, 14, whatever you have it, being that age. Usually they cast older to play younger. And then people are a little bit more okay with the things and the items and the situations that these girls are going through. But I also don't know if that plays as well, unfortunately, with the uncomfortability and the in your face of what they're trying to get across for this movie. You kind of have to cast these girls young. You also have to get girls who look physically and mentally and emotionally can respond to that age group without it being an overarching act. And so while there are definitely some uncomfortable scenes and some scenes of these girls doing these dances and doing these gyrations and whatnot, but for me it comes off more like a dark comedy or black comedy than it does something that I'm offended by, and most certainly something that I think people are using saying that, oh, this is child pornography, that people are attracted to. This story is done to say, be a cautionary tale to say, hey, talk to your girls or even boys, talk to them about their sexuality. Don't keep them repressed. Let them learn what they need to as they go along. Otherwise, you could have moments where they swing from one side of the pendulum to the other without having that middle area where they can kind of learn on their own. I think you have to take this movie as a cautionary tale or a comedy or a dark comedy when one of the very first lines of the entire movie is it says, "Inhale, there are more women than men," just because of all the things, the sinning that women do towards men. That's bullshit. So you would then think that even if you just watch the first 15 minutes of this film, you would completely get out of your head that like, oh, there's not child pornography here. Like, this isn't something that we should be boycotting. This is something that we should be using to learn. But unfortunately, the U.S. mind does not quite operate in that manner when it comes to sexuality or teaching young women about the control or lack thereof that society puts on them in regards to that. So, I don't think this is a film that should be being banned. I don't think this is a film that should be outright being discussed in the way that it is. It is a movie that should be being discussed as saying young girls should watch this to get a better idea of the troubles and the pitfalls that watching the YouTubes or watching the pageants, which I'm not a fan of, or these dancing competitions that do over-sexualize girls. Looking at all those pitfalls, this is a story that tells you, hey, it's okay not being repressed, and it's okay not being super grown. You can just be you and get to whichever level of that you want to on your own. You're allowed to do all of that. And I think that's what the important overarching theme is. And I'll say this, I am definitely more disgusted by the people, specifically the men who have created this witch storm for this film, than I am the moments of being uncomfortable in this movie because of little girls trying to act like grown women. It far I'm more disgusted by grown men trying to repress this story and in turn repressing women even more, especially in the U.S. But those are my thoughts. On my scale of once is enough, play it again, Sam, or give me a time stone so I never need to see this film again. I'd play this again. Play it again, Sam. I think this is a movie that should be seen by quite a few people. I think if you are a person with a daughter, or if you're people with nieces or nephews or daughters or whatnot, there might be need to be some context and some stuff being told. But I think it's a movie that you sit down and watch with them, not a movie that you have them watch, because they could take the wrong things from it if they are not not being explained to why this is this way or why this is this way. But I think if you watch this with them, you guys will have a great discussion afterwards and a great come to adulthood or womanhood for them to kind of help them on the path to figure out who it is that they are. But yeah, don't boycott this. That's stupid. But those are my thoughts. If you've seen it, go ahead and leave your comments in the comments below. And I only want comments from people who have actually seen the movie. I know there's going to be probably people whatever, that's going to happen. But your opinion's going to be very invalid to me if you haven't actually watched the film. Now, if you've watched the movie and you want to have a discussion about that, go ahead and leave your comments in the comments below. You can find us on Twitter at HollywoodADI, or you can email us at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast by the same name that is on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere that plays podcasts. We are there. And like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.